Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Trimpe here, and we're going to go over your Investigation 3 quiz from Thinking with Mathematical Models. We're going to take a look at the front page here, questions 1, 2, and 3. And before we get started diving into these questions, let's take a look at what inverse variation is, and that's what your quiz was on. So what I like to do is just write down at the top of my sheet what my equations are for inverse variation. And you should have learned that we know x times y equals k is one equation, or you could write it as y equals k over x, or you could write it as x equals k over y. And if you want to make a little note that k is a constant. All right, all these things we know, and we can use this fact by using all these different equations here. Some will work in better situations than others, but all three of these represent the same thing. So let's take a look at number 1. What is another way to represent the same situation as the equation y equals 150 over x? Well, if you notice here, that is in the same form as this one right here. So we just want to write it a different way. You have two options. You could write it as x times y equals 150. Notice that 150 is your constant. Or you could write it as x equals 150 over y. Knowing your equations, you can represent this actually two different ways. We only asked for one though. Question number 2 though is a little bit more tricky. It says, suppose that y varies inversely with x. Write an equation for the inverse variation given y equals 6 and x equals 8. So again, we want you to write an equation, okay? We're not just solving for the constant here. Now I do need to find that constant. So if I just pick one of my equations, x times y equals k, I know I need to figure out what k is. Well, I look at what I'm given. I'm given y equals 6 and x equals 8. Plug those in. 8 times 6 equals k, and k equals 48. But we need that k to write our equation. So I can then write my equation as x times y equals 48. You could also have y equals 48 over x. Or you could have x equals 48 over y. Any one of those equations would work. Alright? It's just knowing what you're given and then being able to solve for what they ask for. Now, let's hop down to question number 3. In question number 3, you're given this relationship at the top. Use the inverse relation y equals 600 over x for questions A through C. So this is the equation we're going to be using for the next 3 problems. Well, immediately I think, okay, well it might be helpful to rewrite this. So I might rewrite it as x times y equals 600, and I might rewrite it as x equals 600 over y. Again, they all represent the same thing. It's just one equation might be easier to work with in a given situation. So let's look here. What is the value of x when y equals 150? Again, they're giving me y is 150. I need to solve for x. So given my equations up here, it's probably going to be easier to use this one because this is what I'm asked to find. I'm asked to find x. So if I write that one down, x equals 600 over y. They tell me y is equal to 150, so x equals 600 divided by 150, and you get x equals 4, which would give you the correct answer, C. Let's take a look now at question B. Question B says, what is the value of y when x is 150? So now they're giving you what x is, you got to figure out what y is. This one, probably the equation that they gave you would be the best to work with because what you're asked to find is y, and that's what is alone in the equation. So we'll start with y equals 600 over x. Substitute in what you know. Y equals 600 over 150. And we know that that is y equals 4 again. So you should get the answer D. And then the last question here, what is the value of x when y is negative 20? We know what y is. We're looking for x. Which equation is looking for x? The third one that I wrote up there. So x equals 600 over y. I substitute in what I know. So x equals 600 divided by negative 20. And then 600 divided by negative 20 is equal to negative 30, which of course would give you B. Now, I know there are multiple choice questions, but it's still nice to show your work to make sure you don't make any mistakes or small little calculation errors. If you have any questions on 1, 2, or 3, see your teacher, but hopefully that cleared up any mistakes that you had.